Thanks for joining us for ONLA webinars. Our next webinar is USDA approved Oklahoma Industrial Hemp Program, and Caroline Nelson will be giving this webinar. So Caroline, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Hopefully lots of people will watch this. So yeah, I'm going to be discussing the Oklahoma State Hemp Plan. We finally got our approval on October 9th, 2020. So that's huge news. It's very exciting. I was in shock when I got the call from the USDA. So I was very, very excited to get this. Okay, so here's my contact information. Email definitely works best. If you call my office, that actually rolls into my work cell phone. So even though I'm not in the office, if you call that number, I will still get your call, but email is definitely the best way to contact me. So here's some of the resources that I used while building this presentation. There's the ODAFF Hemp website, so that's on there. I will be posting some more forms and links as kind of the year goes on. So hopefully you'll find those really useful. And then I've also put in the link to the USDA approved hemp plan. So this is everything we're going to be going over. If you plan to grow, process, and or handle hemp, please read this entire plan. I know that can be a little overwhelming to see this huge document, but it's very important that you follow these rules as they're outlined in that hemp plan. I've also included the link for the EPA approved pesticides for hemp. I'll be talking about pesticides next. So these are a few of the ones that were approved by the USDA, or sorry, by the FDA. Sorry, EPA. And I'm not like recommending these over anything else. These were just 3 that I pulled off the list. But if you want to look at that, there's, I believe, 48 or 49 that have been approved by the EPA. That doesn't mean that you can actually use them in Oklahoma. Please remember that the label is the law. If you want to use a pesticide, that pesticide must be registered for use in Oklahoma, approved for use on that pest, approved for use in that area, and approved for use on that crop. So if you want to check to see if one of those products has been registered in Oklahoma, you can go to that website down at the bottom of the slide, kellysolutions.com, and you can search by product name, you can search by site, pest, but please read the label and make sure you're not using a greenhouse pesticide outside in your field if the label says that you can not do that. So we're going to go over the statutes, and this material can be a little bit dry. This is the law portion of our plan. So there's a lot of words in here. I'm going to try to break it down. When you're looking at the actual Oklahoma State Hemp Plan, this is under Exhibit 1. So here's some important definitions that are new for this year. We defined handling and processing. And since we're now offering a handling processing license, it's really important you figure out if you fall into one of these categories. So handling means you're possessing or storing hemp for any period of time on a place that is allowed to process or grow hemp. So that's pretty much anybody who is doing anything with hemp. If you don't have your grower's license and you're still handling hemp, you need to have your processor handler license. Processing is just mean converting industrial hemp to a marketable form. I thought these pictures were really cool. I've always really loved microscopic pictures. So here's some hemp fiber under a microscope. You can see more pictures if you go down to those websites that I linked there. But I loved it. I just thought these pictures were really, really neat. Now, licensee authorization. As a licensee, you are authorized to grow it and cultivate it. If you have your hemp processor license, then you would be authorized to process and handle hemp. The activities performed under the hemp program basically mean that you can't be held criminally liable under the Uniform Controlled Dangerous Substance Act. The exemption from criminal liability provided in this subsection is a limited exemption. So basically, if you do something you're not supposed to do under the Oklahoma Industrial Hemp Program, then you would be able to be held accountable, and you would have liability under that Dangerous Substance Act. The license. If you want to alter the land on which the licensee is going to conduct their growth or processing, you need to let me know within 30 days before altering the area. So if you've got your greenhouse and you want to start out with 1,000 square feet, and then, a week later you'd say, no, I can actually handle 2,000 square feet. Then you'll need to let me know. You'll need to pay for that. You'll need to show me a new map, the legal description of the area, all those fun things. If you have any changes to the information provided in the original license application, let me know within 10 days of such change. And you can just send me an email and let me know. Harvest report. This is so important. I'm actually going to cover this 2 different times in this talk, because this is an area I see a lot of growers kind of drop the ball. So you will need to send in your harvest report at least 30 days before you harvest. You have to let me know what is going on so I can send an inspector out there to you. If you don't let me know within 30 days, I cannot guarantee that we have an inspector available during the time you need us to come sample, okay? If you've got any changes to your reported harvest date by more than 5 days, you should let me know. So if we pick a date, say October 15th, and you say, oh my gosh, like it's still not ready, I'm not gonna be able to harvest until October 30th. Just send me an email and let me know and we can reschedule. Inspection and sampling. Any plants that you have there are subject to at least an annual inspection and sampling. So, we have a whole thing at the end of our plan that describes how we sample and what tools we use and that kind of stuff. I didn't have time today to include that portion, but if you just want to go through and read how exactly we're going to take the samples, it's not that long of a part to read. So we can inspect and take samples during any normal business hours. Licensing for handling and processing are subject to at least an annual inspection in addition to compliance inspections. So if we have an inspector in your area and they want to just stop by and make sure everything's going well, we can do that. This talks about how you're responsible for payment within 30 days of receiving the inspection bill and the laboratory bill. Those will be 2 separate bills. I send out the inspection bill, the lab sends out the lab bill. And we want you there essentially during the inspection. So if you're there and you can see how we're doing everything, then you sign the form saying we showed up on this day to take the sample. You can also have a representative there. So if for some reason you're not able to be there, just send me an email or send the inspector an email and say, hey, I'm unable to come, but I've got this other person to be there in my stead. I found this hemp jacket. I thought this would be really cool because it's cold outside. So you can actually find this on Patagonia's website. And I don't know, it looks very comfy, has lots of neat little pockets and stuff. So I thought I would link that. Now, license denial. So we can deny, revoke, or suspend a license if you do pretty much any of these following things. If you violate any provision of our hemp plan, if you engage in any type of fraud that has to do with the hemp plan, if you refuse or fail to cooperate in the inspection process, if you refuse or fail to provide any information required or requested by the Department of Ag for the purposes of the hemp program, providing false information, fail to submit any reports required. So if you don't send in your harvest report in a timely fashion, that could actually be grounds to revoke your license or deny your license the next year. If you fail to pay required fees by the hemp program, and that does include the lab fee as well. So if you don't pay your inspection fee and you don't pay your license fee, lab fee, all those things, you can not have a license. Also, if you violate the hemp program by, let's say you grew something that tested at 0.35%. Someone growing that type of hemp, if they bought actual hemp seeds, they made their best effort to not grow marijuana, then we would not turn that information over to criminal enforcement. However, if you grow something that is, 5% THC, that is very high for what would have been hemp. And at that point, it would have to be turned over to criminal enforcement. if you violate the program 3 times in any 5-year period, you will not be eligible to obtain a license for 5 years, beginning on the date of the 3rd violation. Also, you cannot participate in the hemp program if you have been convicted of a drug-related felony, either at a state or federal level, for 10 years after that conviction. So that's one reason we ask for the background checks, is just to confirm that all key participants don't have any drug-related felonies. This is a lot of words to basically say we don't get tax money for the hemp program. All the money for hemp comes from any fees, or if anybody wants to donate money or something like that, grants, that's where the money comes from. So that's how we pay for the inspector's time. That's how they pay for me. That's how they pay for any supplies that we need for the inspectors to use. That's where that comes from. So we do not get any tax money at all. Now, I know this picture is a little bit blurry. You can see it a little bit better if you go to that website, but this is some fibers with the exposed core. So I just thought that was kind of neat to see the different structures of the plant. So basically, you shall not process anything hemp related if it's from a source that would be in violation of the US code or the code of federal regulations. Now we can go over the actual rules. So this goes into a little bit more detail about how things are done here, and really kind of breaks down those statutes that I was talking about. So here are some important definitions. Again, there's like a bunch that are in the hemp plan, so please read those definitions. I just wanted to highlight a couple of really important ones. So decarboxylated, this is the method that we use to determine what is the total THC factor. And we will be measuring total THC from basically this point forward. We take the THCA and we convert it into the Delta 9 THC. There is that conversion factor of 87.7% THCA. Not all the THCA will turn into Delta 9 THC, so that's why we've had to use that conversion factor. Now, key participants. If you are a key participant, you will have to submit a criminal history report. This is anyone who is has direct or indirect financial interest in the business producing hemp. So this would be an owner or a partner. Any executive level corporate employees like chief executive officer, chief operating officer, or chief financial officer will be considered key participants. Now, if it's just someone who is managing your farm and they are simply an employee who work for you, then that would not necessarily be a key participant. But if they've bought stock, they're a 5% owner, then they would be considered a key participant. So post decarboxylation. This is essentially the same thing I said before. This is what we get after we have converted those things to Delta 9 THC. Now, if you go to this website, you can actually see the 3D molecular structure of Delta 9 THC. So I just thought that was really cool to kind of see it in action and see how it's built. So if anybody wants to kind of nerd out over that, I think that might be kind of fun. Okay, here's how the application process goes. And I do want to say I have submitted the 2021 application to our IT department to be put on the ODAFF Hemp webpage. So please be patient while they get that put on there. I don't know how long that will take. Around holiday time, we kind of have like a soft freeze on things being added to the website. So I'm hoping since it's in between holidays, we can get it on there and people can start sending me applications. So you must be at least 18 years old. You must file your application at least 30 days before planting, processing, or handling. Each cultivation site or each processing site will require its own application, its own fees, and we'll have to have a separate license. All fees are non-refundable. So if you pay for 50 acres, but you only grow 25, I cannot give you the money back for the 25 extra that you did not use. So be sure of what you're doing before you send us money. Incomplete applications cannot be processed, and this will delay your approval process. please send in complete applications. If you are missing something, I send you an email and I say, hey, I still need this to get the rest of your application done. But last year was pretty good. The year before, I definitely would get like 1 page at a time from people. And, you know, that makes it very difficult to keep things together when I'm getting hundreds of applications. So if you could send it all in one go, that would be so amazing. And it would be a lot easier to get you approved and processed if you're sending in those complete applications. If you need help filling out the application, please let me know. I'm glad to help. I want to help. I hope that the 2021 will be a little bit more user-friendly. So let me know what you think of it. And you must include the criminal history report for each key participant, and it has to be dated within 60 days of the application submission date. So your criminal history report cannot be from 2 years ago. A lot of things could happen in those 2 years. So you have to have it dated within 60 days of the application submission date. There is more information on what needs to be included on the actual application and in the Oklahoma State Hemp Plan. So once I get those applications up, just keep checking our website. Like I said, I'm just waiting on IT at this point. Here is the front page. So this is the checklist, and it basically covers everything that I said. So go through, make sure you're check marking things that apply to you. If you're a business, you obviously don't need to let us know that you're a business. You're just an individual person. So I won't need to know your EIN or anything like that. Okay, grounds for denial. The location of the cultivation site, the criminal history of the applicant, prior administrative actions taken by ODAFF against the applicant. So, you know, if you do have those 3 violations, and then you try to put in another application, I'm going to notice that, hey, this person did not follow the rules last year. They've got their 3 violations. They cannot participate for 5 years following that last violation. Reasons for denial are not limited just to this list. So the license, each location requires its own license. So all licenses will expire December 31st of the year that license was issued. Any industrial hemp that is not harvested on or before December 31st needs to be declared for inclusion on the next year's license or needs to be destroyed. Basically, having a license doesn't mean you can just break the law and grow all the marijuana you want. You do need to follow the rules outlined in the hemp program. You cannot transfer your own license to somebody else. So, you know, if you get approved for the license at this specific location, you are only approved to grow at that specific location, period. There is no option to move it. You will have to pay for a new license if you have another facility that you wanted to move to. And this is important to note for any outdoor growers as well. If you are growing outdoor, you have to have your application submitted before July 1st. We do not accept applications for outdoor cultivation after July 1st. The reasoning behind this is if you are planting, you know, late July, August, outside, the chance of your crop actually making it has been significantly reduced at that point. It's super hot. The seeds will most likely not do well. There are always exceptions to the rule, but as far as what seeds can do well and what can't, but we decided that if you were planting after that, you need to be doing it indoor. Land use restrictions. So this is new as well. So definitely pay attention to this part. You cannot grow, handle, process, or store hemp in any structure that is used for residential purposes. So if you've got a spare bedroom, you cannot grow hemp in it. It has to be a place that nobody lives. And you can have your farm where you've got your farmhouse and you've got a barn next to it. You can grow it in the barn, that's fine. But you cannot grow it within a place that you live. A licensee shall not grow, handle, or process, or store hemp in an outdoor field or site that is located within 1,000 feet of a school, daycare, or similar public area frequented by children, and that's as determined by ODAFF. So if you've got questions about where your field or your greenhouse is located, call me and I'm happy to try to figure out, is it without 1,000 feet away from the school or daycare? And we'll see what happens with that. Here is an example of an acceptable map. So I pulled this slide off of the PowerPoint that I have on the ODAFF Hemp webpage. So I made one for 2020, and you'll still need to have the same type of map. It needs to have a border around the grow area, and it needs to have an arrow marking the entrance. You need to have a square on there showing the name, business name, address, along with the GPS. And if you notice, I've got several streets here. So you need to have at least one marked road on the map that you submit. Some people live way out in the counties, so their closest road may be a few miles away. And if that's the case, do a zoomed out one and then do one that's a bit closer up so we can actually see where you're putting your hemp. If you don't know your varieties yet, you don't have to mark them on your map. Some people get the license before they figure out what they're even going to buy. So that's okay. Just draw the border around the area you plan to grow hemp in. Restrictions on sale and transfer and storage. So you cannot sell, transfer, or sell plants, living, viable part plants, seeds to anyone who does not hold an industrial hemp license by the department. And by department, I mean Oklahoma Department of Ag. You can transfer up to 1 pound of industrial hemp or plant parts to a testing laboratory, both within and outside the state, for the single purpose of measuring THC, CBD, or another phytocannabinoid profile level. It is the responsibility of the licensee to confirm compliance with the laws of other states. So if you are transporting to another state for some reason, you need to figure out, do I have to have a transport license for that 1 pound? Do I need to call them ahead of time? What's going on? You shall not store live plants or propagating stock at any location that has not been approved by the department on your original license. Some people who are doing clones have a separate room for their mother plants, and that's okay. I have no problem with that. But you do have to let us know that's where you're growing those mother plants, and you will have to pay for that square footage if that's what you're doing. Any storage of hemp shall be locked and secured. This is new as well. So you will have to establish records with the USDA Farm Service Agency. You will have to include all this info when you contact them, and that way they can have this on their record. This is basically to confirm the reports that I have to send in once a month to the USDA. I have to say who we licensed, where they are, how much they were licensed for, and their license number, that kind of stuff. So if the FSA sends the USDA a list, and I send them a list and those don't match, something got missed there. So they're going to check and see what all we need to do. You'll have to include your street address, hopefully the GPS as well, whether it's indoor or outdoor. You need to include the acreage or square footage for each lot, greenhouse, indoor, dedicated to industrial hemp, your license number, which would come from Department of Ag, the total acreage or square footage of any hemp that's planted, harvested, or destroyed, and report any changes to this information within 30 days to the FSA office. Now here, this is the link to take you where you can find any FSA office in Oklahoma according to county. So I wanted to include this. That way you can contact them and say, do you guys have a form to fill out, or do I just send you all the info that's outlined in the Oklahoma Hemp page? I suggest calling them and just see when you need to turn that in by. Here is your continuing obligation to provide information. Essentially, if you have any changes to your harvest schedule, to your employees, to key participants, anything like that, you will need to let us know. And that's basically what it means, is have to let us know within a certain amount of time if you've got any changes going on. Transportation, I get a lot of questions about this. I've spoken to the highway police. I've spoken to local police chiefs, and just let them know this is what our licenses look like. Here's most likely what the hemp growers will have on them when they're transporting. I try to encourage people to have this info. Anytime you're transporting hemp, you need to have this info, okay? The copy of the current hemp grower's license, current approved certificate of analysis for the harvested hemp crop, and processors and handlers, you'll need to know their license number, name, address, and contact info. So if somebody pulls you over, they basically want to know who you are and where are you going with this product. The fees for the hemp grower license did not change this year. So they are still a $500 application fee, $5 per acre, and then 33 cents per square foot. Hemp processor and handler license fee. So this is new, obviously, because our processor and handler license is new, but the fee amount is a tiered scale based on what your annual sales are. So essentially for this first year, everyone's going to be that $1,000 fee amount. Most small businesses, regardless of industry, are really just trying to make back the money that they spent to get going. So this year, most likely everyone's going to be that 50,000 and under annual sales. Now, if you go up, which hopefully everyone makes so much money and everybody's just selling all the hemp in the world, your annual sales, if they fall between 50,000 and 250,000, then your fee would be $2,500. If your annual sales are greater than $250,000, hope they are, hope we have 50 processors that are making that much money, but it would be $5,000 at that point. Inspection fees. Again, this is $35 per hour per inspector of the actual time devoted to the inspection of your cultivation site. This can be charged following routine or unannounced inspections. So the collection of the hourly inspection rate includes the inspector's travel time from their duty station to the cultivation site, the time devoted to the inspection, and the inspector's travel time returning from the cultivation to the inspector's duty station. So if you know, we have an inspector in your area, that's usually how they try to schedule their time, is they don't want to drive 3 hours out of their way to inspect one person. That wouldn't really be fair. That's a lot of time spent driving, and that's going to charge you for like 6 hours of their time minimum because they're driving 3 hours there, 3 hours back. So they try to schedule a lot of things in an area where they know they're going to do a hemp inspection. So it's not that much money. Now, hemp seed. Any person who sells hemp seed should include a statement on the label, which offers a copy of the current certificate of analysis and shall provide a copy of the current COA upon request. Comply with all the provisions in the Oklahoma seed law and rules. If you sell seed in Oklahoma, you have to have a seed dealer's license. Here's a link to get that. If you've already had it, I think you have to use a different link where it says renew, but this is for new applications. I've also linked the Oklahoma seed law, and you can find that there. If you have more questions about seed, please contact Wade. I've put his phone number here. He's the seed program administrator, so he can definitely answer more questions about what's required on a label than I would be able to. If you are selling live plants, you'll need to obtain either a nursery grower's license or a nursery dealer's license. I've linked both of those applications there. Again, those are for new applicants. If you already have yours and you need to renew it, you will have to go to a different link. But if you have more questions about the nursery program, contact Casey. She is the nursery program administrator. Harvest reports. I told you I was going to do it twice, and here it is. So again, not less than 30 days prior to harvest. That means you have to send in your harvest report at least 30 days before your planned harvest date. And then on or before December 1st, every licensee in Oklahoma will need to submit a supplemental harvest report declaring their actual yield for each variety and any material change that happened in the harvest report. You cannot harvest your hemp until we have sampled it. You cannot sell your crop until you have received a passing certificate of analysis from the ODAFF lab. Please submit your harvest report on time so we can make sure we have an inspector available for you. Especially with COVID going on right now, it's extremely important that we work out our schedules as quick, as far in advance as we can. I understand with a living thing like a plant, it can be hard to know when they're going to be ready, especially hemp. It can take a turn in the weather and suddenly they're ready to harvest. So I do understand it can be hard to pinpoint your exact harvest date, but this is how the USDA told us to do it, and we are obligated to do it this way. So here's the harvest report process. You complete the harvest report on ODAFF's website. You email it to either directly to me or to the hemp@ag.ok.gov email address. The inspector will then contact you to schedule an inspection. They'll most likely email and call. You should be present during the inspection. The samples will then be transported to the ODAFF lab by the ODAFF inspector. Once we've sampled your crop, you can go ahead and harvest. I will email the lab report directly to the grower based on the email address provided by the applicant. So make sure that you are checking your email. You give me a good email. That way we can know, I can stay in contact with you. Once you've received a passing ODAFF lab report, you can go ahead and transport and or sell your hemp. Records. This is, again, a lot of words. Just keep everything that has to do with your hemp production for 3 years. You can keep it for longer than that if you want, but you can't keep it for less than that. It has to be at least 3 years. You keep all records relating to the storage, the processing, the use of it, all that good stuff. If you are a processor or a handler, you have to retain these records for at least 3 years from the date the record was obtained or generated. The license number of the grower, a copy of the certificate of analysis, and the amount of hemp purchased from the grower. So if you're a processor and someone comes to you and says, hey, I grew hemp in Oklahoma, here's my certificate of analysis, but it's not from the Oklahoma Department of Ag, I would not accept that. If I was the one processing, I would say you need to provide me with an actual certificate of analysis from the Oklahoma Department of Ag, and you need to provide your Oklahoma hemp license number as well. I thought this was funny. Day 90, still no tomatoes. Okay, inspection and testing. So again, if you want to read how it is we're going to collect our samples, that is all at the Exhibit 3 of the Oklahoma Hemp Plan. So it goes over a whole list of like the tools we have to use, how we actually collect the samples, we have to cut it at an angle, all that good stuff. So if you want to know about that, please read the rest of it. Again, we are doing the total THC. So that's why that's in green is the total Delta 9. So that is the THCA converted into Delta 9 and then added to the Delta 9. So a lot of people had concerns about that, questions about that. We have to do what the federal government outlines for us. So that's what they decided to do. So we're going with it. So to answer those questions, we are total THC moving forward. Okay, so we are required to collect our samples within 15 days before your anticipated harvest date. I did have a few people this year call me the week that they needed to harvest and say, I got to get somebody out here. It's going to freeze. It's going to freeze. And, you know, I don't have just an army of hemp inspectors out here. I have inspectors who have many, many other programs that they're having to work on year round. So I cannot stress enough that we have got to get your harvest report as soon as you possibly know you're going to harvest. We will come out within a 15-day window before your harvest date and collect our samples. That time frame was, again, decided by the USDA. So we didn't get to pick the 15 days before harvest. That was something they picked. We will send notification that we're going to do that, including the time, the date. If you have questions about the process of it, the inspector will be able to tell you about what they're going to do. So the licensee, the subcontractor, or representative needs to be present during that inspection in case there's any gates that need to be unlocked, doors, or something like that. We can also conduct unannounced inspections and collect samples during regular business hours without advance notice. And again, a producer shall not harvest the cannabis plants prior to collection of samples. Again, we're doing the total THC. You can look at our standard field operating procedures, which is what I told you Exhibit 3 is. And you will need to pay, again, those hourly inspection fees and the lab costs within 30 days of receiving your invoice. And you'll get 2 invoices, so one from me and one from the lab. Violations. So here's a bunch of stuff that if you get in trouble, or this is what could get you in trouble. Our fines are pretty hefty. They basically go from, like $0 all the way up until $10,000 per violation per day. So that's a huge amount. If you've got 5 violations and you've had it for 2 weeks, that is going to be a lot of money. So I really, really hope we have no violations and everybody just follows the rules. If you have an employee or a subcontractor make a violation, that will be considered a violation of the licensee. So make sure that you've got employees and you're working with people who are also very aware of the laws and rules for the hemp program. If you fail to turn in timely applications, harvest reports, or requests for information from the department, that's a violation. If you provide false information, failure to retain the records. So if we audit and say, hey, we need a copy of these records from 2 years ago for your hemp license, you should still have those. If you fail to be present or send a representative for routine inspection, that's a violation. Failure to pay any fee or invoice issued by the department. If you plant, grow, harvest, or process a plant at a site other than described on the application for the license or an amended application. If you commingle hemp plants from one lot with hemp material from another. Because at that point, if it tests hot, you would have to destroy the whole lot instead of maybe the one variety that actually tested hot. If you're handling or processing or selling non-compliant hemp, which enters the stream of commerce. So if you are out there and you're selling hemp that tests at 0.5 and you've been told it's 0.5, that will be considered a violation. Okay, there's a lot. There's a lot of violations that we have to go through, but I would suggest, you go through and you read all of these so that way we know we're all on the same page on what the expectations are. Violations of the Oklahoma Industrial Hemp Act and rules may result in civil enforcement. So again, just follow the rules. And if you've got questions about one, please call me, reach out, and I would be happy to help figure out what's going on. Just let me know the issue. So stop, hemp does not get you high. Okay, so speaking of hot hemp, destruction. The licensee shall destroy all plants and plant parts if required by the rules of the subchapter or by order of the department. Destruction of plants shall be conducted in section E or subsection E unless you get written authorization from the department on an alternative method. Now, the method that is acceptable is burning it. So if you are in a burn ban, you need to let me know, hey, my county's under a burn ban or this town's under a burn ban and I cannot destroy it yet. And then once that burn ban is lifted and it's safe to do so, then you can go ahead and video the destruction and let us know, hey, I was finally able to destroy it. We do not want wildfires. We do not want any destruction other than just destroying that non-compliant hemp. An officer employee of the licensee will need to submit an affidavit affirming that destruction happened. So you need to send that within 10 days following the destruction. You will need to video it. You don't need to have a date stamp on the video, but you should have the date in the electronic file name at least. Again, this just talks about the burning. You need to be able to burn it. We will be coming by to confirm that the material was destroyed. So we can either be there for the entire process or we may just be coming by to make sure you've got a pile of burned marijuana. Hearing and contests. So if you have any issue with something that's been brought against you by the department, these are the procedures you would take to contest that essentially. And, I haven't had anybody have to do that yet. So hopefully we won't have anybody. Hopefully it's just nobody tests hot ever and we don't have to worry about having to go through a hearing and dealing with contests and things like that. Here is how we sample. So this is a picture that the USDA gave us. We have to take bud material. So we don't have an option on where we cut the plant. So we take it from the main stem of the plant and it has to have flower material on it. Go through Exhibit 3 again, just to make sure you know our procedure. But this can be difficult if you're growing for seed, because obviously you want seed, you don't want bud material. But we have to be able to sample bud material within 15 days before you plan to harvest. Here is my contact info. You know, again, email is the best way to contact me. I do have my work cell phone, so if I need to give you a call, I'm happy to do that as well. And then if anybody has any questions in the chat, I'm happy to see what's going on with that. I don't think there's any questions. But if you do have questions later, please feel free to give me a call or an email. And yeah. That's all I have.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Caroline? Oh, looks like we've got something.
Oh, okay.
Jeff said thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you could come.
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for all that great information. I mean, so much to really go over, and I guess always keep handy so that you know the rules and regulations for sure.
Definitely. And if anybody wants a copy of the slide set, send me an email and I can send it to you.
Great. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys did this.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us for ONLA webinars. And whether you're joining us live or on demand, we appreciate you. So have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.